How come they're saying the meeting is streaming and we don't hear anything?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call?
Director Baker?
Here.
Director Case?
Here.
Director Cotton?
Here.
Director Foley?
Here.
Director Hazlett?
Here.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
Here.
Director Maura Makunde? Director Najib?
Here.
Director Punts?
Here.
Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, we are in compliance.
Okay. Next, we have comments from the public. We have a board policy 80107 that states no person may speak more than once to an issue or for a period longer than 5 minutes, except upon the consent of the majority of the district board. No more than 3 people might be heard on the same issue, except upon the consent, again, of the majority of the district board. I want to remind everybody that negative public comments identifying specific personnel via name or position are not appropriate for representation to the board in public session. The board will not be responding to any matter in adherence to the state of Wisconsin open laws meetings, which prevents a governmental body from discussing any specific item that was not publicly noticed on the agenda. Okay. The first person that we have is Dewey Cotton.
Do I sit here at this
Yes.
end?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members virtually, board members here today, and Dr. Cruz, thank you. I'm Dewey Caton, the outgoing vice president for part-time faculty at Local 212. Part-time faculty reluctantly step up today to object to the college's announced plan to create a new employee class, that of internal adjuncts, namely administrative employees that will have teaching rights. This initiative has not been developed in a shared governance or other collaborative process with faculty. The issues are many and complex. The plan not well articulated, specifics not provided, yet it is rolling out. Employees hired for administrative purposes will now be allowed to teach without being selected through a competitive application, review, and interview process involving faculty and deans. An open faculty position is not required. They merely have to express an interest, apply in some new non-competitive way, have their basic credentials reviewed, and then start teaching in January. They need not be the best candidates for the job. There may not even be a job. On May 5, Learn Pillar Leadership advised 212 that it was moving forward with this initiative. We were not consulted previously or invited to participate in the discussions or planning. We immediately raised issues, asked for details, documentation, and a meeting. The initiative is another devastating blow to all faculty at a time when replacement full-time faculty positions are often not approved. Conflicts between administration and faculty over academic issues remain unresolved. Faculty and frontline voices and shared governance have been silenced. The specific reasons for the creation of this new teaching employee class have not been provided, although certain individuals in leadership have indicated they would like to teach. In addition to not replacing full-time faculty, administration has not solved the significant issues with retaining part-time faculty. Over 140 part-time faculty were hired last academic year. Through March of this academic year, another 90 part-time faculty have been hired. This is about a 20% annual turnover rate. This is not surprising given the lack of guaranteed work, changing course expectations, and having teaching responsibilities that exceed that of other Wisconsin technical colleges. Today, you'll hear from a newer part-time faculty. This semester alone, we had part-time faculty who did not receive their usual number of assignments, had assignments canceled right before the start of classes, or even canceled after they had started teaching. Many part-time faculty will not complete their initial FQAS requirements and be laid off or voluntarily depart the college by August. Why are we before the board, and why so quickly? Because this creates an entirely new class of educators filled by individuals hired to fulfill other responsibilities. Because the initiative circumvents the usual advertising of an open and competitive hiring process, where faculty and deans are not involved in hiring the best qualified educators to fill the need, and the need has not even been identified or defined. Because the project has started rolling out, the one-page document and video provided to faculty, leads, and deans states it's rolling out in June. Because dual position faculty, approximately 13 employees who are not exempt administrative employees, are having their positions as part-time faculty eliminated, and they have to reapply for an internal adjunct job for no apparent reason. Under college policy, their years of longevity and service to the college and students will be gone, their earned pay raises gone. Because other college resources are being expended when there's a need for them to be dedicated toward hiring and retaining faculty. We do not know why the Learn Pillar and HR administration is moving forward so quickly. They're not available to meet with us until June 9, although they first advised us of this issue and this initiative on May 5. They must have anticipated potential conflict with faculty assignments. So even if the internal adjuncts are to be last in line for a course, the proposal includes an audit to assure faculty rights, perhaps after the fact, are not violated. The job description, duties, reporting hierarchy, qualifications, and compensation are not yet available for our review and comment. We don't know if they're even drafted. Simply put, we bring this to the board today to ask whether it is aware of this initiative being organized by administrators who themselves want to teach, whether it knows the college is rushing this forward. We ask that you instruct administrators to pause and provide details of the plan and job proposal to the board and to Local 212, and provide the opportunity for faculty and deans to be heard. In closing, let us say that the issues with the internal adjunct initiative are obvious and many. The potential conflicts are real, the waste of resources and damage to morale immeasurable. Thank you.
Okay, next may I have Stacy Smitter come up, please?
It's pronounced Smiter.
Smiter, my apologies.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Board. Good afternoon, Dr. Cruz. All right, my name is Stacy Smiter. I'm a part-time instructor here at MATC. I'm a real estate broker, and I'm also currently pursuing my doctorate degree. But more than that, I also serve on the board of directors for the Wisconsin's Realtors Association, and as well as the president for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the only African-American U.S. trade association we have. I'm also an educator who didn't get here by chance. I earned my place in the classroom. I'm also a former MATC student, and this institution played a role in my journey. This is why I care deeply about the standards we uphold here today. I currently teach in the business pathway, and I serve on the union, on the executive board for the Business Pathway Advocate. So I'm not just speaking for my personal experience, but I'm also bringing forward concerns from other instructors. And I want to be clear about what it took for me to get here. It took over 2 months of interviewing, vetting, classroom demonstrations to earn the opportunity to teach at this institution. I also completed the FQAS, which is a requirement both for full-time as well as part-time instructors. I also bring, which is an unpaid requirement that demands time, effort, and commitment. That is the standard. That is why I stand before you today in opposition to what we call the internal adjunct pilot program, because what this proposal does is, whether it's intentional or not, it creates a second door into the classroom. A different door that says that if you are an administrator and or exempt employee, you do not have to go through the same process. And once you create a second door, you don't just create access, you create inequality. Now, I want to ground this in facts. Across the Wisconsin Technical College system, teaching is governed by statewide standards. Instructors are expected to meet certification requirements, demonstrate competency, and go through a formal vetting process. Even here at MATC, our own hiring process reflects that expectation. And across other colleges in Wisconsin, Administrators may teach, but it is very rare. But they still go through the same academic and hiring standards. What is being proposed here is different, and that difference matters because the issue is not a lack of qualified instructors. The issue is a lack of support and stability. Part-time faculty are already navigating no guaranteed assignments, semester to semester uncertainty, adjusting full-time work schedules just to teach, and unpaid preparation just to stay qualified. And despite all that, we are expected to deliver high-quality education every single day. So when we hear about hard-to-fill classes, the question should not be, how do we bring in administrators? The real question should be, why are we not fully utilizing and supporting the faculty we already have? Because here's the reality. Some part-time instructors are already left. It's not because the lack of passion, not because the lack of qualifications, but because the system does not provide stability. And that should concern all of us. Because teaching is not just something you add to on your job. It's not a side task. It's not a backup plan. It is a profession. It requires preparation, commitment, and accountability to students. So when we open the door for individuals to teach without going through the same level of rigor, while risking lowering the standards, even if they are not intentional. Let me be clear with this, is not personal. If administrators want to teach, I welcome them. But they should go through the same process that we all did. The same application, the same interview, the same expectations. Because fairness is not just about access, it's about equal standards. I will close with this. This decision is not just about staffing. It is about the message we send. Are we saying that teaching is a profession that we must earn? Or are we saying that it's something that we feel when it's convenient? Because those are two very different institutions. So today, I ask you to pause this initiative, engage your part-time faculty, listen to the people who are already doing the work, because we are not just filling classrooms. We are shaping lives, and that responsibility deserves more, not less. Thank you. And I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. Next, if I can please have Jody Reddy come up.
Hello, I'm Jody Rady. I obtained my master's in science and biology in August of 1987 from Marquette University. I became a part-time instructor at MATC in August of 2007. I have been teaching anatomy and physiology, which is a feeder course for many of the occupational health programs ever since. In August of 2015, I obtained a position as a part-time educational assistant in science in the Academic Support Center and Tutoring Services. In 2008, I moved to the LAS division to become a part-time educational assistant specifically for anatomy and physiology, with that position becoming full-time in February of 2020. I have continued as a part-time instructor for nearly 20 years, including during this last 6 years, while I also worked the full-time paraprofessional position. The ability of individuals to have a full-time hourly position and teach part-time came into question beginning in 2021. On August 2nd of 2024, I received an email from the Vice President of Human Resources regarding updates and changes to the concurrent employment policy for hourly staff. This email had an attachment entitled Concurrent Jobs Email Final that provided details and next steps to be taken by the college. This document included statements indicating the ability of full-time hourly employees to also hold a part-time teaching position were going to be sunset so that as of July 1st, 2021, no new full-time hourly employee will be allowed to concurrently hold a part-time teaching position. There is also a section discussing an employee exception provision, a direct quote from this section of the document. You will be able to continue in both your full-time hourly role and your part-time teaching position. This arrangement will be allowed to continue indefinitely, provided you transition to a new part-time faculty pay model. I was close to the top of the old pay scale. Switching to the new part-time pay model would result in a significant pay cut. The document further indicates that to switch to the new pay system at the highest rate, which was Tier 3, required completion of an additional professional development course. This course was called ZERD 220, Teaching Excellence for Part-Time Faculty. This had to be completed over fall of semester 2024 in order to be part of the highest tier in January 2025. I completed this course while performing both full-time educational assistant and part-time teaching duties. And in January 2025, I was switched to the new pay system at the highest tier, even though it was still less than what I was making under the old system. Since then, I have continued working in my full-time educational assistant position and part-time teaching position. The need for anatomy and physiology classes has greatly increased, while the number of instructors, both full-time and part-time, has remained constant or decreased. Over the last several semesters, many full-time faculty and some part-time faculty have required load exceptions. This is beyond typical overload for the full-time faculty. My ability to continue teaching part-time while having a full-time hourly position has aided in making sure that anatomy and physiology classes offered matched the need for those courses. I participate on the interview committees for part-time instructors on an ongoing basis, and I am currently part of the interview committee to fill a full-time instructor position. This competitive hiring process is important as it allows for selecting and hiring the best candidates for each position. Therefore, our students, future medical and health professionals, receive the best education. This process is one our academics and dean of the STEM pathway are directly involved in the selection process. I believe that my work as a full-time hourly paraprofessional and a part-time instructor demonstrates my dedication to MATC and its students. Now a new project, MATC Internal Adjunct Appointment, The Path to Teaching, has been brought to our attention. The project seeks to allow administrators to teach. The administrators and legacy employees, which would be hourly employees that also teach part-time, such as myself, must apply to become an internal adjunct faculty, submitting credentials and receiving supervisor and VP approval for the application to be reviewed. Thus, starting all over, losing any seniority as a part-time instructor that I've achieved, and entering another pay system that could result in lower pay. This is a slap in the face, given that I have been teaching for almost 20 years, continuing to meet the FQAS requirements for part-time faculty and jumping through hoops such as additional professional development course and changing to the lower pay scale to maintain my part-time teaching position. With all this work to
Time is up, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Your time is up. Thank you. Okay, next we have the approval. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. My apologies. We have one more person. Suzanne Goodrich. You can hand them out to Beth, right? Any handouts?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So sorry about that.
I'm not sure if I should give you that. Good afternoon, members of the district board and President Cruz. My name is Suzanne Goodrich. I have been a member of full-time faculty staff here for the past 20 plus years. I am here today to express my concern regarding a growing trend of devaluing faculty expertise and contributions and diminishing faculty voice in decisions of the college. Over the past few years, we have seen a drastic shift away from collaborative culture that once defined our college. Throughout my career at MATC, I have remained deeply committed to faculty development, instructional innovation, and instructional improvement. I helped establish the service learning program, contributed to the college earning the prestigious Carnegie classification as an engaged institution, a distinction we held for over 10 years. Supported the Center for Teaching Excellence since its inception, participated in presidential initiatives and committees, and worked extensively with faculty on emerging technologies and instructional practices. As a matter of fact, many of the administrators that I said hi to when I came in today can attest to what I have just said. Early this past semester, after 20 years of supporting my peers, I received a letter indicating my peer support services were no longer needed within the Center for Teaching Excellence. When asked for clarification on how decisions were made and of who to keep and who to let go, there was no response from any one administration. This lack of transparency creates uncertainty and contributes to the perception that faculty voice are not equally valued or meaningfully included. My concern extends beyond an individual assignment. Increasingly, faculty expertise and instructional knowledge appear to be undervalued in decision-making processes that directly impact both faculty and students. While faculty may be invited into conversations, decisions often appear to have been finalized before those discussions occur. This diminishes authentic shared governance and weakens the collaborative decision-making culture that once distinguished MATC. Most importantly, these patterns do not align with MATC's Ascend Together strategic initiative, which emphasizes a supportive, caring, and collaborative culture. The strength of this institution has always been rooted in the expertise, engagement, and dedication of its faculty and staff. When those voices are minimized, the institution risks losing not only valuable experience, but also the trust and engagement necessary for long-term success. I respectfully ask the board to consider how institutional decisions are being communicated and implemented, and whether current practices genuinely reflect the collaborative and supportive culture MATC publicly promotes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Now we're moving forward. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for the board meeting of April 28, 2026. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any comments, discussions, questions? No? Okay.
You should check with the directors online.
Any questions from the directors online? Thank you. No? Okay. So it has been moved by Director Hazlett and second by Director Foley. Next, we have the approval of
To
the,
take a vote on approval.
thank you. Told you he would keep me on my toes. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on. Okay, next we have the approval for the consent agenda items. May I have a motion for the approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been moved by Lauren. I'm sorry, Director Baker.
I'll take
Director Baker, and second by Director Foley. Are there any comments, questions? Yes, sir.
On the financial report, we're showing a surplus right now of 6.3 million, and we have another month to go. Is that correct? 2 months. 2 months. So, do you have any estimates of where we're going to end up?
You may come up. Yes.
Thank you for the question. You recall last month, we had a preliminary projection that looked where we may end up at about a $2.8 million deficit.
Okay.
As the finance team, Eva and staff, and I reviewed this financials for this month, it appears we made up a little bit of ground and probably ending up closer to about a $2.3 million. At this time, that's what that looks like based on known expenses. I'll remind you from the presentation last month, the biggest wild card there is our healthcare claims that we still have to pay out. So while we have 2 months left after this report in the fiscal year, those claim payments do lag a little bit. So we've only seen the actual payments through the month of March reimbursed at this time.
Okay.
And then along with that, depending on what happened with those payments and the makeup of those claims and what happened with stop loss reimbursement, that's kind of the wild card that we're wrestling with a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the directors online? No?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, we have board action items. We have resolution F0400-0526, authorizing the sale of 1.5 million general obligation promissory note, series 2025-2026L of Milwaukee Area Technical College District 4. Thank you. You're already at the table.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
You
So
need to put a motion on.
Yeah. May I have a motion?
I move approval.
I'll second.
B.
wonderful. So today's borrowing was the last borrowing for fiscal year 25-26. So that's pretty exciting news. So happy to report that the college received 6 bids on this morning's sale. That is the same number of bids that was received on last month's sale. The only difference is the interest rates were a little bit higher this month. The final winning interest rate was 2.91% this morning compared to about 2.80% last month. However, the benchmark interest rate curve has gone up about 20 basis points since then. So that about 11 basis point difference is still a little bit less than what the market has done over the course of the last month. The market has been very news driven, primarily surrounding Iran, with ceasefires being on, ceasefires being off, and that's created a lot of volatility. But all in all, really positive result coming off a day after a holiday. So as mentioned, this was Series L. The borrowing amount was the standard $1.5 million. The date that funds will be received was June 15th. We had the standard 6/1/27 through 6/1/2030 principal payments on this issue. The first interest payment on this issue is due on December 1st, 2026. As is common with the college's debt for building, remodeling, and improvement projects, this issue is non-callable, and it still carries a AA1 rating and was purchased by Huntington Securities, who also bought last month's issue. On the following page is the overall financing plan. In that final borrowing at the very end shows that the college has successfully completed their 25-26 borrowings. And then the far right-hand column shows we're still tracking on course with the projections that have been prepared for the college in past sales. And then last but not least, the rating report. The one change from last month is the rating report did make mention of the anticipated deficit of the college. However, it did not have an impact on the credit rating. Overall, it does mention that the general fund balance is still about 28% of operating revenues. And we'd say about 25% is a healthy number. So still all in all, it didn't really have an impact on the number of bidders that we're seeing, and the college is still in very solid financial shape from that point of view. But that is kind of the one change in the rating report from last month. Yes.
You may. Yeah.
And that's the language that's in like the third paragraph?
Yes, it's from fiscal year 2026 through, and then it also gives the details that, however, the college also has plans in place to help kind of offset some of that.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call vote?
Can I ask? a
Yes, sir.
question? Thank you. I don't understand the interplay between the 30% number in the rating and the reality of the situation. We're saying we have 25%. We're already under 30%. And this indicates that being under 30% is a factor that could lead to a downgrade of the rating.
Yes, but in terms of the medians, so the AAA median is about 30%, and kind of the high end of the AA median is like that 30% number. So according to the rating report, being at 28%, it's still kind of on the cusp between the one metric. There's more that goes into the rating than just that one metric. It is an important line item in there, but all in all, it does speak to the fact that the college does have plans in place and kind of those other factors. It all in all didn't impact the college's rating. So it's something that they'll kind of continue to monitor, but I don't think that it shouldn't be anything to be too concerned of. As long as this kind of doesn't kind of start to dip below that kind of 25% figure.
And what are you relying on to say that real bottom line number is 25%? Because I don't see that.
Where are you referencing 25%?
You're
You
referencing 25%.
So the fund balance policy of Moody's is saying typically they like to see a strong number is about 25% of the fund balance. And this references that the college, even despite the expected deficit, they're still projected to be 28%. So still above that kind of 25%. which is still a very solid number. It's just as you start to move within different tiers within the rating criteria, like a healthy number kind of goal to keep in mind is 25% is kind of a floor. And so the fact that the college is still at about 28% despite the deficit is still decent enough position.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the directors online? No? Can you do the roll call vote?
Director Cotton,
Aye.
Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Hazlet,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Director Moramakunde,
Aye.
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Pence,
All right,
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye. Thank you. Next, we have resolution F0401-06-26, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million general obligation promissory note, series 2026-2027-8 of the Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. May I have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
second.
Are there any questions? No? Okay. Can you do the roll call?
Okay. Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Hazlet,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Director Moramakunde,
Aye.
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Pence,
All right,
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Cotton,
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Okay. Next, we have a presentation for the fiscal year 2026-2027 preliminary activity plan and budget. If I can have Mr. Singh please come up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, directors, Dr. Cruz, faculty, staff, and guests. So have a slideshow, it's kind of my notes to kind of guide through the conversation. You have received as part of your agenda item, the activity plan and budget PDF. It's 133 page and it's in draft. So I think a couple of years ago, you asked us to stop printing it. We'll give it to you when it's final, hopefully after we get through this. But if you want another copy between now and then, please let myself or Beth or Eva know. So moving on to the first slide, you see what this book will look like, except we'll eventually take the draft off the cover. There's a first presentation of this book, though you'll recall last month we did have a preliminary budget presentation to you. So in interest of time, I won't dig into that same information. It's largely unchanged from what the preliminary budget numbers were that were presented to you last month. We will, on the next agenda item is actually to ask you to approve the notice of public hearing. So we will host the public hearing here in this room on June 16th, and then bring this document back in final form, hopefully for your approval. At your June 23rd meeting, our fiscal year begins July 1st. I'll just remind you, as I think I usually do, the format and contents of all of this are much dictated by WTCS. Sometimes the accounting formatting and what it looks like is a little confusing. So I'll just ask you to share any questions you have again with Beth or myself or Eva. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And also remind you that this becomes a public document. Of course, it's already attached to the public agenda in draft form, and then we'll share it out at the June 16th hearing and at your next board meeting. Next slide, please. This book contains an incredible amount of information. It's divided into 3 sections. The first section has information about our budget building process, which is an extensive process and happens throughout the institution at all levels of the institution. And it is really a year-long process. The second section has the financial data, some of which I'll share with you here again this evening, and also includes the preliminary general fund budget. And then the third section is supplemental data that's suggested that we provide to you, or we over time have developed, put into this book so that we could provide it to you. This also, in addition to the preliminary general funds budget, includes those special revenue funds, the capital projects fund, the debt service funds, and enterprise funds, all with a little bit of detail on each. Moving on to the next slide, you see a summary that's actually on page 29 of the PDF. And this shows all of those various fund budgets and then a total way over on the right-hand corner. You see on this document the total budgeted expenditures for MATC in fiscal year 26-27 in total, counting our debt service payments and the debt issuance and capital and all of those other funds, $440 million, just a little bit over that in total. Moving on to the next slide, we'll talk about the general fund. Again, I presented a lot of this information to you, a lot of information on the general fund at your last meeting. You'll remember the pie charts. Our revenue comes from three major kind of primary categories. The local tax that we levy within our district, state funding, which is the green slice there, and tuition and fees. I know all the numbers on the screen are really, really small. Again, they're on the PDF on page 47, just showing you an example of what that looks like. I'll also point out that in the book, we present the expenses under what's called the functional classification, and that's one of those functions of the WTCS rules. The functional classifications are in the green chart that's on the screen: instruction, instructional resources, student services, and so on. But the other pie chart that's there breaks that down into more of a natural classification. You may recall last month I used that pie chart to show that most of our spending is in wages, compensation, and benefits. About 88% or 88 cents of every dollar that we spend in the general fund is compensation and benefits for our employees. Just to share the numbers that are on screen, as they're really, really small, the total revenue in the general fund for fiscal 2027, $192,424,000. And the total expenses that are shown on screen, $195,075,000. And so that leaves us with that deficit budget that we talked about last month. Currently, that deficit budget's about $2.6 million. Moving on to the next slide, remind you of some of the things we talked about last month, where the revenue is increasing. We will have increased revenue from the property tax levy of approximately $1 million. We will go through that tax rate setting process in the fall as we do each year. There's also an increase to state revenues. I use the word potential increase. Most of that is known, but the exact figure sort of depends on the outcome-based funding, which has a lot to do with how we end this current year and the number of categories that outcome-based funding, or OBF, is based upon. So that should be about $1.4 million more next year than it was this year in our budget. And the tuition and fees revenue will increase. I'll remind you, last month, both the WTCS and this board approved increases to tuition. And then we are also budgeting for an FTE student enrollment increase, moving that from this year's budget at $9,200 to next year's budget $9,500. The expenses increased by about $7.7 million. And again, reminding you, salary and benefits is the bigger part of that. It's about 88% of our total expense. On the next slide, I'll remind you of what I told you last month, that we still have some work to do on this budget. Continued focus on the workforce roster. So we are continuing to work on focus on reducing the Zancel cost in the next academic year. We did reduce that cost in this current year by about $1.3 million and are projecting to continue our efforts there. We've also offered a voluntary separation incentive plan, which is an early retirement or a retirement incentive program for some employees who are retirement eligible. And we do not yet know the results of that, as they have a period of time to consider the program before they opt in. We are currently in the process of negotiations related to salary and base compensation changes, and so do not yet have that information. And again, as we've shared, and just even earlier tonight, the increase, projected increase of health insurance plan expenses in the next year, currently that's looking to be as much as about a 10.9% increase. And so we need to try to mitigate the impact of that to our overall budget. And lastly, continued review of academic program, both enrollment and vitality. We will expect, as we usually do, to bring forward a revision to our fiscal 27 budget in the fall. You may recall we do that each year once we have more confirmed numbers of tax revenue and other items. So much of the work that's listed on screen that I just discussed is work that we'll have better answers to between now and that time. Moving on to the next slide. Again, in the book, it also presents these additional funds, these special revenue funds, which deals with restricted funds, usually that come from an outside source or third party. So this is government grants, federal grants, and state grants. Also, the financial aid funding is part of the special revenue funds. Enterprise funds, which includes Milwaukee PBS as a separate enterprise fund, college bookstores as a separate revenue fund, college food service, and childcare as separate funds within that grouping. The internal service fund that's listed is really it's an in and out sort of fund where we pay for the health insurance expense and some other benefit expense for our employees. And the capital projects fund, which I'll cover with just a little bit of detail here, as you do have an agenda item tonight. That includes capital equipment as well as capital improvements. Moving on to the next slide, as I said, talking about capital equipment budget, there is an item on your agenda under 9A that will cover the capital equipment, preliminary capital equipment budget for this year. That's an annual budget for which we issue debt. This current cap for this amount is $26 million, and we will be presenting that preliminary budget to you at that later agenda item. Moving on to the next slide, you can see just a preview of that. I won't spend a lot of time on it, as you do have it as agenda item later, but we do show you each year how we are dividing that cost through various functional categories, if you will, across the institution, or departmental categories, as we again go through a very lengthy process to determine how we will spend these dollars and put them to the best use for our strategic plan forward and our students. On the next slide discusses the other piece of the capital budget, which is the capital improvement budget. You may recall at your meeting last month, there was a video presented, and we answered questions that you may have had at that time. So this is also included in the budget hearing next month, and of course in the book that we're talking about now, and is also issued by the debt issuance, such as the 2 bond issuances that you just approved, items related to, and we do each month. I'll just quickly go through those slides again because they are in the book and we did review them last month, but on the next slide, it shows that capital improvement budget and how we have divided up that $18 million throughout the year. And just go on to the next slide, if you would, please. This is the same information that was presented to you in the video last month and was part of the board agenda at the April meeting. One more page, and I think maybe one more page after that. The reason I showed that, even though you saw it last month, is this slide, which shows a combination of the entire capital project fund of both the capital equipment budget, which we will put in front of you on the board agenda item later tonight, and also that amount that we put in front of you last month. Just that this shows a combination of those. The biggest slice of that is the $18 million for the capital renovations and remodeling that you already saw last month. On the next slide, again, just before we move on to the item 7A, which is for your action approval, just again want to talk about what this item is, which is the book that was sent to you by PDF and the draft. It's also available on the board agenda, and primarily what we will present at the public hearing on June 16th. But I'd be happy to try to answer your questions at this time, should you have any. Yes, sir.
Voluntary separation incentives, other than the obvious answer of we want to reduce employees, what are we trying to accomplish there?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the question is related to the separation incentive program. There's a number of ways that can provide benefit to our budget or perhaps some savings in the budget. The first is we may have employees exit positions, and anytime an employee vacates a position, we should be looking at that position to see, is that the position we need in that place? Is there something else we should be doing to gain efficiencies or to find savings? So there's that general look at those positions at that time. The hope is that we may find some of those positions that we would be able to not fill. We could also elect to leave positions vacant for a period of time to achieve the savings through not paying out salary for whatever that period of time is we determine. Once we get through all of the election process, we will need to study all of those positions to determine which way we go with that. The other way that sometimes we find savings through such a program is we will have an employee who has been here for a long time and thus is at the maybe higher end of the salary scale for their particular job. So if we do need to replace the position, we would expect to find some savings that way, though certainly a lot less than if we eliminated positions.
Is there a goal to reduce employment by a particular percentage or in particular areas?
I would say that I do not have said goal. My goal is to reduce the deficit that I've already told you about. And so as we get through the employees that are eligible for the program, I believe there's about 107 of those based on the criteria we've established. We will be able to look at that and try to reduce the number that's the deficit side of the budget right now, so we can bring back to you a much better looking budget when we amend that in the fall.
Thank you.
It's one of the levers we have to do that.
What about programs? I have seen programs added, but I don't think I've, in my 3 years, have seen anything taken. Is there any, are we looking at stuff that is no longer relevant for our workforce?
That'll be referenced later in the board meeting by Dr. King.
There is an agenda item directly related to
that will talk about programs that are what we have been looking at through the vitality study.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
You raised the issue of healthcare.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that it is an area you're looking for savings in. Are we looking at any changes there? Or are we mostly looking to be able to get savings in other areas so that we can buffer ourselves for increases?
Thank you for the question. I'll just say I don't said I think I said we're looking for savings there, but we're looking to try to mitigate the impact of the increased healthcare costs. We know that they're going up, and again, that 10.9% is a pretty big number. Knowing that our tuition revenue, for example, is only increased by 2.5%. And so we have a total rewards committee that is meeting, I believe, even this week again, and continues to meet, and that's cross-functional with employees from different parts of the college to discuss what sort of changes we might bring forward to the leadership team to consider. And those could be changes of almost any kind related to our health insurance program. It could be a change in the cost share with employees. It could be a change in the program itself. We're also working closely with the Benefits Consortium, which is the Technical College Benefits Consortium we are in with eight of the technical colleges, so us and 7 others. And we also work with our benefits advisor through the consortium, who meets with us and also discusses with our total rewards committee the options that may be on the table.
Thank you. Are there, yeah, Supreme, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There on the general fund slide, the functional expense and natural classification, the table and the pie chart, how do those correlate to one another?
So I think we're trying to get that. Thank you for the question. And I should have clarified that more. I think we have that slide on screen. So the in the budget book that does the budget plan and activity plan and budget book, we present the expenses the way that WTCS requires that we present them, which is by fund and also by the functional categories. So within those functional categories, we have, for example, instruction, which is the largest of those. We have salaries and we have benefits paid and we have discretionary budget. And that happens in each of those functional categories. For people who are non-accountants and non-finance people, generally we talk about budgets more in that natural classification. So what are we spending on salaries? What are we spending on benefits? What are we spending on utilities and all of the other things in the discretionary budget? So in total, it's just 2 different depictions of the total number broken into a different chart. But they correlate to one another in that they should equal the same number that's shown on the page.
So each of these subsections in functional expense could be represented in all 3 of these wedges in the pie chart. Like, for instance, instruction could be wages, benefits, and discretionary. Instructional resources could be wages, benefits, and discretionary.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great, thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to the very next slide is the next agenda item, which is agenda item 7A, I believe. Notice of the public hearing. So
I need to do a roll call for that.
I'll be happy to talk about that when you're ready.
Yep. So if I can please have a motion to approve resolution F0402-05-26 for approval of budget and class, is that a 1 or an I? Class,
A class one.
Class one?
Class one,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
public hearing, legal notice FY27. May I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
A second. You.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry for getting ahead of you. I apologize for that. So again, class one public hearing notice. This is a statutory requirement that we publish advance notice of the hearing. In fact, I think we need to do that real quick. I think we're required to do that 14 calendar days in advance. So we'll be getting that to the Journal Sentinel and the other places. We post that on our own website and online, of course. And that provides appropriate notice to the public that we'll be having a hearing about our budget. We will have that here in this room. I believe we also stream that. And that allows the public to bring forth questions, concerns, and so on about the budget prior to us, again, presenting the budget to you for your approval at your June meeting. It's much the same information that we presented last month and a little bit of this month. Moving on to the next slide, I'll just cover the notice, which is the actual agenda item. So we show in the notice and gets published in the newspaper our history of property tax and expenditures. On the next slide, you see a similar table to what I showed you earlier, which is the all funds budget presentation that's in the budget, the activity plan and budget book. On the next, it has another general funds budget presentation, once again using the functional classification that's required by WTCS, and then also has a fund balance on the next slide. All of that's part of the public notice, and I'm just showing you that in little pieces on the slides here. It's all part of the document that is in your agenda item for 7A. And on the last slide, we just recommend your approval of that agenda item. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Go ahead. Dr. Ray.
Not so much question as a comment, and I always do this, but I would have my colleagues take a look at that on that his property tax history. Take a look at the tax on $100,000 house. So when people say, what's the impact, you guys at MATC, what are you doing there? I mean, you can see that on $100,000 house, we've actually cost less for people over the last, however many years that it's just, gone down. You get an awful lot of bang for your buck with MATC.
Nice. Are there any other questions? The director's line? No? Okay. Thank you. So there is a motion that was said by Director Baker and second by Director Hazlett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you have a question, Dr. Cotton? No? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, we have the monthly reports. And I will start. On behalf of the board, I extend our heartfelt congratulations to the 1,847 students of the graduating class of 2026. We had 7 board members attending the May 16 commencement, where 866 students walked the stage. If you weren't able to join us, you'll have another chance to experience it. The full ceremony will be available on MATC's YouTube channel. Will anyone like to share any thoughts? Directors online? I actually do have one comment. I've noticed that the arena started to empty it out again from the people and some of the students. So I don't know how we can make it clear that they have to stay until the end to make it official. Because a lot of them walk the stage and then just exit. That's all. Next comment, it's the public hearing on the budget. The public hearing on the budget will be held on June 16 at 4 p.m. in the downtown boardroom. This meeting provides the public with the opportunity to speak to the board regarding the proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. Next, we have the district board's report. Director Foley.
Again, the timing of the DBA's meetings in this one is rather inconvenient. Anything that I would have said 29 days ago is pretty much obsolete at this point because the meeting is tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are voting on some changes to the bylaws, which I hope will eliminate some of the internal conflicts that we've dealt with over the last 2 or 3 years. I understand that the new executive director is making arrangements to come here, both to speak to President Cruz and to speak to the board. I don't think any of that's been arranged yet, but he is visiting all of the colleges this year, which is a tough thing to do, to get that done. And so there are various reports we're going to receive tomorrow. I'll let you know if any of those are things that need immediate attention. I've also asked them to change the date, the day of the week for the Tuesdays for trustees call-in program they started this year because they managed to pick the same Tuesday of every month that we are here.
Oh, nice.
And at the same time.
Yeah, you can be in 2 places at once.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item that we have is the board self-evaluation survey. I want to note that 7 of 9 members have completed the survey. Wanted to know if there's any discussion, comments, questions. No. Okay. Well, next we have the president's report. Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
So
Director Baker.
what do we do with this?
That's a good question.
I
Well,
mean, it's something, and maybe as we move into next year and we look at our retreats, our way of dressing, I mean.
probably
I think
address him in a retreat,
there's
I'm
a-
assuming.
agreement, but there's some places where people are like, oh, we don't do enough of this, or,
Mhm.
oh, the board, whatever. And so I would look to our officers to maybe digest that and think about it when we're doing our next retreat, if there's something that we need education on or strengthening or something.
I'll pass it on. Yes,
I
Director Foley.
think in line with and in support of that, I think we should look at the survey results where we're asking, tell us that we're doing something positive, and we have one disagreement, one don't know. I think somewhere else in here is one disagreement. I think there's one that strongly disagrees. I think the chair needs to understand whether those concerns are coming from new members and they're bringing it to the table, or if those are concerns being expressed by people who've been here for a long time, in which I think we need to, well, in both cases, we need to dig a little deeper into them. In one case, it may be an educational process, and another, maybe we really have to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask what we can be doing better.
Absolutely. Okay, noted. Thank you. Dr. Cruz?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, MATC community and board members. And I have a few things I want to update you on since the last time we met. I was privileged to join our funeral service program on May 14th for their service of gratitude ceremony. We gathered to honor the individuals cared for in our embalming and restorative arts lab. Because many of these individuals were unclaimed, this service is our way of offering them the dignity and recognition, a thank you that they truly deserve. It's the second year I've attended this ceremony. It's a very emotional time for our students, but it's a wonderful way of really showing some gratitude for these individuals. The wellness celebration, launching the Employee Wellness Challenge here was a key objective of mine this year, aligning with our strategic priorities, caring culture. And the initiative promoted mindfulness and physical activity while fostering a fun environment for our employees. Last Wednesday, we celebrated the end of the challenge, recognizing 181 employees who took part. Kenneth Hill, an accounting specialist in student accounts, claimed a top spot in the moving challenge by recording over 1 million steps. Pretty impressive. He's beat me by at least 900,000. Congratulations to faculty member Dwayne Schultz. Has been named as the Wisconsin Respiratory Therapist of the Year by the Wisconsin Society for Respiratory Care. This marks the second consecutive year MATC Associated Therapist has taken home the top honor, following the instructor Jessica George's win in 2025. Congratulations to Dwayne on this very well-deserved recognition. We held our Create the Spark Student Showcase on May 14th, which offers a glimpse into the portfolio work of our students spanning 12 programs in our creative arts, media, and design pathway. We're grateful to the pathway faculty for their tireless efforts in guiding these very talented students. And that's something, again, great event, walking around, talking to the students and interacting with them and learning more about their portfolios, the projects that they've been working on in the last semester of their programs, and also listening to their stories of what they're going to be doing as they graduate. Always a really great activity. This time of year is really special, you know, in so many ways, and we also had the ability to celebrate accomplishments of so many different events on campus that had to do with graduation. I had the privilege of attending the nurses pinning ceremony on May 19th here at downtown campus, where we celebrated the achievements of 59 registered nurses and 34 practical nursing students. And the pinning ceremony is deeply symbolic and it honors the historical legacy of nursing and officially welcomes these students into the nursing profession. What a wonderful event. A lot of family attended that event as well. On May 20th, I had the pleasure of speaking with graduating students from Milwaukee Public Schools participating in the NAF track program. This initiative serves as a vital link to our MQ pipeline, connecting high school students to future collegiate and career success. These students received a certification that they completed a pathway coursework, 3 phases, work-based learning, and a master-specific future-ready skills verified by an internship supervisor. So there's basically students, MPS students that completed an internship, got that certification, which will help them not only learn more about the career that they want to go into, but actually gives them that real world experience as well. And then that also encourages many of our students to go into Direct Admit and Smart Start, which are both MQ programs. Last Thursday evening, we gathered with our dedicated community-based partners to host a powerful celebration for over 300 GED and HSED graduates. These individuals demonstrated great resilience, overcoming significant personal and professional barriers to earn their high school credentials. By earning these credentials, our graduates are now better positioned to enter the workforce or transition to an associate's degree or technical program here at the college, and also helping them on their way to economic mobility. And I must say that usually is the most emotional of all celebrations that we hold here, whether here or but just for MATC. Whether, you know, commencement's always great because we have so many, you know, we have thousands of people. In this case, 300 graduates plus their families in Cooley, and it's always a wonderful event. A lot of emotions, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of cheering on from the parents and their families. So always a wonderful event for all of us here at the college. I want to give you some enrollment updates. Our spring enrollment is at 4,198 as of May 18th. We have already met our budgeted goal, and we are 97.4% to our target goal. Our summer enrollment is trending at 4.6% ahead of projection. And so enrolled right now, FTE 834, projection year to date is at 797, and budgeted is 860. So definitely something very positive that we see, again, our enrollment increasing as we're going into our summer semester. Any questions?
No questions from the directors online?
All right, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to go back and say something? Well, I'm gonna get that part of it.
Sure, why not?
Never mind.
Go ahead.
You're there.
Yeah, you're sorry.
Never mind.
Right? Another thing that I forgot to say about graduation is that I would love to see more faculty present. I believe there were 3 rows and only the front row and maybe a little bit of the second one we're taking. So it'd be nice to see them to be part of the.
We've always had a lot of faculty.
Yeah.
As long as you've gone back to that subject,
Yes,
let me just add one thing. The way you get people to stay to the end is to give them something specific to be there for. You know, you can have an affinity group meeting, you could do a neighborhood meeting, you could do a majors meeting. There has to be some content that they'll enjoy about it, but that would be the way to get them to stay.
Okay.
A way to get them to stay.
But overall, very rewarding for all of us.
Yeah. It's always fun. Thank you.
Maybe we could use more faculty members to come up with things to do like that, and then
And then they'll have to be there
Then
to
they'll have
follow
to be
through.
there.
There you go. Perfect. I like the way you think. Thank you. Treasurer's report.
All right,
Okay.
very quickly, we had the FCC and OPEB Investment Trust Committee on May 6th. The committee was joined for this meeting by representatives from PFM Asset Management and additional members of the finance team. PFM provided an update quarterly report of market performance for each portfolio over the 3-month period ended March 31st, as well as substantial updates on market performance since the end of March. The FCC Trust, which you have the numbers in front of you, the balance was at 126 million. The performance for the quarter was slightly ahead of the benchmark within the 12-month performance near the blended benchmark. Again, it was noted that there has been significant recovery and growth in the portfolio since the end of the quarter due to better market conditions. The committee and the consultants revisited the discussion of changing the allocation of the alternative investments in the portfolio from 20 down to 15, and as those funds continue to fall off the board, basically. I don't know if that is something to think about in the future, just to keep, going lower with it. Again, this will be accomplished through maturity of current alternative investments and portfolio growth. The asset allocation guidelines in the trust investment policy will be amended accordingly and presented to the committee for formal approval at the next meeting. Finance personnel also noted that near the end of the fiscal year, there will be about a $4.6 million draw from the FCC Trust, which is a fiscal year allocation to support the operations as specified in the trust spending policy. For the OPEB Trust, the value, which is also in your notes there, was 69.7 million, and the quarterly performance was slightly ahead for the market indices, while 1-year performance was slightly trailing the blended performance benchmark. The OPEB Trust has similarly recovered since 3/31 and also reflected 7% growth from that date up to the May 6th meeting. Next committee meeting is scheduled for August 5th.
Any questions? Yeah.
I have one. Just that I remember that we had a lot of discussion about not meeting the blended benchmarks. That we were concerned that our performance was not. Now, it seems to me we're a lot closer than we were when we were doing poorly. But are we concerned that we continue on both of these funds to not meet the blended benchmark?
Well, again, this is for up to 3/31 when the market was down.
But I assume the
A lot.
benchmark the market is down for everybody who's in our benchmark too, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's for 3/31, but
If
I don't know how I didn't think to throw a number in. Maybe it's probably up another 10% from that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, something that.
But it is
keep in
performing
mind.
better.
That would be the total amount, the total market value of it.
Okay, thanks.
Because of
Are there any
daily-
other questions?
Daily changes of war and. things.
War and Peace. There's a
War and
novel in
Peace.
there.
Yeah, no, I was looking at the 1 year and 3 year, not the 1 month. Right. Okay.
Paul,
Any
anything
questions?
else to add to that? Did you have any Any more thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to try.
Martin?
As I understand, the question is concern related to the 1 and 3 year benchmarks and our performance lags just slightly.
Just like
And so one of the regular things that we do with PFM, the asset managers, is we talk about performance of the various managers within the portfolio. And in fact, over the last couple of meetings, they have discussed pulling assets from one of the managers and changing to another, and it was a pretty good chunk. So they regularly monitor, as part of their fiduciary responsibilities under our agreement, the performance of those managers of the individual funds within our overall portfolio. So the best I can answer is yes, we are paying attention to that, and yes, they are reporting to us on that. And then annually I think we did our August meeting when we reviewed the end of our fiscal year results, went through a specific manager review of all of those external managers, but it's part of the greater reporting they do to our.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. And it is, I mean, the performance is way better than when we all kind of sounded the alarm, but just something I'm glad we're doing.
Does the benchmark have a 20% alternatives component?
The benchmark that is presented on your report is a blended with alternatives, and so it would include some level of alternatives. And one of the reasons we've discussed reducing that amount is the alternatives don't all follow a benchmark necessarily, and the way that the returns work on the alternative is not as linear as most other investments. So,
Right.
so they're very late on performance. On the early end, they're very low, and on the later end.
Right.
So
So that could be skewing the number.
based on where we are in that time.
Yeah, and based on where the benchmark group as a whole and we separately. I mean, that's more than enough to make up the difference that we're seeing in these 3 sets of comparative
It's
numbers.
not apples and apples.
Potentially
Right.
so. And one of the challenges
Could be
is
the other way around though.
each alternative investment has its own benchmark based on the nature of that investment. If it's something that is commodities driven, or if it's something that's real estate driven, there's different indices that are used for that. So we really rely heavily on PFM. They've done a great job for us, in my opinion. But we do have a pretty robust conversation, and that's what led to us changing the managers for a portion of those investments. Was the return over the longer period had continued to lag the benchmark for that particular fund.
They also don't report as consistently as anything else that's in the portfolio.
The alternative.
The alternatives do not, which is why it's also difficult for accounting to keep up with it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Najib, did you have a question? Okay, next we have the PBS report. If I could have Debbie come up.
Sit in a tall chair. Good evening. So some good news as we get close to the end of the fiscal year. As of last week, we're about $300,000 away from hitting $10 million in donations. This would be our highest amount ever. Also, our member count is at 44,131, 4,000 more members than we had a year ago. So both of these numbers are highest that they've ever been, which we're just thrilled about.
Hey.
Community has really, really come. Yeah, it's just been amazing. Amazing steady flow of donations since the announcement of federal funding cuts, really. We've added a few more donor touches along the way, update letters every quarter from me, and just a few more ways to kind of welcome the new members who aren't used to maybe getting things from other organizations. This will be the first year that we'll at the very least, a pie chart of where our dollars come from and how we spend them, and a way to inform members of how their donations are spent. This past Friday and Saturday, we recorded America the Beautiful with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. And this morning I offered it to PBS National. I'm hopeful that they'll take it for a national release, but I haven't heard back. But I will be I'll be nagging them. That was a really good show. The team did a great job. It's really nice when you get compliments from other organizations that you work with about your team. That's always like really, really nice to hear. And of course, you know, we know that, but it's great to hear it from other people. The PBS annual meeting was held earlier this month. We saw a compelling lineup of new programs and initiatives for the year, and PBS was named the Webby Company of the Year. A few program highlights. In November, there'll be Crime and Punishment in America, a 4-part series from Ken Burns, Lynn Novak, traces the history of criminal justice, law, power, race, and class in America over 4 centuries. We will produce a local companion program to go with that, or a talk back after. So we would have area experts on. There's also Black Music Mixtape from Henry Louis Gates. We're going to have some fun with that to do some polls and find out what's on their mixtapes. That should be fun. The History of African American Art from Stanley Nelson. Nova's putting out the Once Upon a Time in Space. Nature is putting out Matriarch Jane Goodall, which features footage from her 65 years in the Gombe National Park. I saw the clip was really heart tugging. It's gonna be a great program. Sesame Street. This is the first time I've seen this. Is going on safari in Africa. It's a nature program, so nature doesn't usually have Muppets. You know, so
Elmo will be there?
yeah. So I mean, it was fascinating. That,
Oscar going to be?
not that you know,
Oscar
I
taking
didn't know that, but
his trash can?
it was his trash cans on the back. Yeah.
Where are they baking the cookies?
Making
Cookie
Oh,
Monster.
Cookie Monster. Yeah, I got to give cookies to somebody. And it was just fascinating. I'll see if I can get the clip to show here, because the behind the scenes was really interesting and kind of funny, because they're trying to cram all these people in a safari wagon, which, you know, it's
Big
really is funny. I don't think they were meaning it to be funny, but it was really funny. And I think it's the first time actually really that we've seen a combination of 2 programs like that go together.
Nice.
I think it's great. It'll introduce a whole new group to the program nature. Let's see what else is on here. Locally, we'll be hosting the governor's debate on October 9th. This is a big deal for us. We're really happy about it. We'll be using a lot of students, I'm sure. It'll take a lot of people, but we're really thrilled to be doing it. John Gerda's The Making of Black Milwaukee should be finished pretty shortly. He says June. I'm not sure if I'll see it in June, because they're still kind of picking at it a little bit and adding some things. I think he says it's going to come out at about 2 hours. Originally he told me 1 hour, and I said, no, it's probably going to go 2 to 3 hours. There's no way you could do that in an hour. He said, yeah, you were right. I said, that's good though. And we'll also be putting together curriculum for 3rd to 8th graders in partnership with the Milwaukee Historical Society. So we continue that partnership. We had some awards to talk about from Milwaukee Press Club. A gold was won for Powerful Marches. It's a best special category. Patricia Gomez was the producer on that. Silver for Movers and Shakers, Milwaukee Change Makers, and that was from Scotty Myers. Gold, best feature story for the Waukesha Parade Tragedy Tile Project. That was Patricia Gomez. And best documentary, silver for Milwaukee's Migration Families. And that was from Earl Arms and Everett Marshburn. And then a silver from West Lawn to the World Cup, how Jimmy Banks changed Milwaukee soccer. And that's Scotty Myers. I don't have anything else unless you have some questions.
Is Wisconsin Foodie back on?
It never went off.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, he was a little confused.
We've had some positions at the station that were open for a long period of time. How are we doing on that?
We filled the whole senior team, which I think I went over in my last report when you heard from me. And then we're starting to work on like an education engagement person, some other of the positions that have been not filled. So we're starting to work on those.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from the directors online?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the report from Legislative Matters, and I believe we have Remy Selenkova online.
Yes, hello, good evening, Chairwoman and members of the board. I believe Beth left a written report with you in front of your chairs this evening. I'm going to highlight 3 items. With the legislature adjourned, it's much more of a quiet period right now as it relates to specific policy, as legislators circulate nomination paper, legislators and candidates circulate nomination papers to get on the ballot and head into kind of full steam election through November. And so I'll highlight 2 proposals in particular that are very specific to technical colleges that were vetoed at the end of session, and then very briefly summarize the budget surplus debate that recently happened, which of course received a lot of media attention. So if there are questions, I'm certainly happy to respond to any of those questions the best that I can. But those are the 3 areas I'll highlight for you this evening. So I'll start at the top with the budget surplus. Received a lot of media attention earlier in the month. Governor Evers announced that he had negotiated with Republican leadership on a tax and education package with a price tag of about $1.8 billion. In that package, the majority of the policy items included one-time tax rebate checks in the amount of either $300 or $600, depending on your filing status. That was right around, I think, 800 or 900 million in total of the package. And then in addition, some additional funding for K-12 education for special education reimbursement, as well as some additional general aid under the revenue limits. But toward the end of the negotiations, there was another provision included, $50 million to buy down dollar for dollar the technical college system levy. So as you all know, that's not spendable resources for technical schools. It's just a dollar for dollar way to buy down the levy to reduce property taxes. When we were made aware that the conversation included some focus on technical colleges, our system president, Layla Merrifield, was really good in spearheading some conversations with legislative leaders in the governor's office. I was part of some of those conversations as well, just to communicate what our needs really are, recognizing that the governor had previously proposed an investment in general aid, which the legislature fell short of during the prior budget negotiations. And so we were reminding legislators and other officials of that, that the $50 million investment, again, is not spendable resources at a time when technical colleges really need spendable resources. Just to share background on the interest some elected officials have with buying down the technical college levy. First of all, it's an easy way to demonstrate some sort of property tax cut or property tax relief. But there are also members of the legislature who I've always had concerns about district boards' ability to levy, being that district boards are not an elected body in totality. With the exception of course, one of our members, we do have an elected official on our board, but generally speaking, because individuals are not elected, some state level elected officials have always had concerns about district boards being able to levy. So that's why we often sort of have this back and forth on our ability to levy and wanting to change that outright. And then, of course, now just to look at some property tax relief rather than providing new general aid. So the deal was announced. It passed the assembly with a bipartisan vote of 61-32, and then failed in the state Senate on a bipartisan vote, 15-18. So as it stands now, the package is dead, to be determined if anything specific to the package get some legs later this summer or fall. But as you probably saw, much of this did play out in the media, and with some very intense public and private discussions and conversations, finger pointing, folks were rather upset, etc. So it was a very intense political moment that ultimately didn't result in anything other than, I think, some really difficult some impacts on relationships, quite frankly, moving forward. So we'll see what happens there moving forward. Those who supported the package, wanted dollars to be returned to taxpayers. Others saw it as a benefit to invest some new dollars, new resources into K-12 public education. Those who, had some concerns with the package felt like, it was irresponsible, issuing one-time rebate checks, creating a deficit heading into the next biennial budget, not knowing where the economy is going, etc. So there are a lot of different reasons for individuals to support or oppose the budget, the budget surplus package, as was announced by Republican leadership and Governor Evers. I'll quickly highlight the two pieces of legislation that I just want to bring to your attention today, and then I'll pause to see if there are questions about those pieces of legislation or the budget surplus deliberations. So first, Assembly Bill 582. This is a bill that would have created a council on dual enrollment with the purpose and intent to improve dual enrollment, to streamline the dual enrollment programs. It would require a number of changes to the programs. It did not include additional funding for dual enrollment. And the council was placed at the Department of Workforce and Development. So the governor did veto the legislation for two primary reasons: the lack of funding. He supports dual enrollment and supports the concepts, many which were outlined in the bill. But without funding, it's sort of hard to promote dual enrollment and to streamline things. So that was the main reason. And he also had some concerns that the council was placed within the Department of Workforce Development, and they currently don't have oversight of the dual enrollment programs currently. So those are the primary reasons. I think the conversation on dual enrollment continues as a result, and then hopefully, with some funding attached to it moving forward. And then the second proposal I wanted to specifically highlight this evening, Assembly Bill 750. This is a very specific bill that targeted public safety programs within the technical college system. It would codify what would be described as certain special circumstances, and not have the same types of residency requirements for individuals wishing to enroll in those programs if they had an employer of the district sponsor them. And so that was moving through the process primarily because there were 2 or 3 southeastern Wisconsin fire chiefs that felt frustrated of wait lists, and they wanted to try to identify some solutions to get folks into programs a little bit more quickly. There is a process currently in place through the technical college system to address these concerns. Colleges can also enter into employer contracts as well. And so while well-intended, the governor vetoed the legislation because he opposed codifying some of the rules that are within the technical college system. And he just doesn't like legislative interference to infringe in local board authority, and also specifically circumventing some of those residency requirements. So those are some of the primary reasons he vetoed that piece of legislation. So those are the two I wanted to highlight today because they were very specific to some of our technical college policy interests, and wanted to sort of explain some of those veto reasons as well. In the electronic version, if you would like a copy, I have linked the veto message to all of the proposals, including these as well, so you can read those at your convenience. So with that, I'll pause and see if there are any questions or comments.
Questions or comments? No? Director Sonlight?
No.
No? No.
I'll ask a question. What can the school do about the dual enrollment? How can we better advocate for that in the future. It was, as I read it, it wasn't a very good bill in the first place, but we need funding for this.
Yeah, I think we have to focus on the funding. I mean, I feel very strongly that there's a lot of opportunity to partner with businesses and chambers to be better advocates for higher education, particularly in the technical college space. And having those partners with key businesses would be helpful so that legislators are hearing from those individuals in addition to kind of the traditional stakeholders, if you will, in the higher education space on the need. So I definitely think that that's something that we can improve upon in next budget cycles, not only specific for dual enrollment, but for general aid as well. We all know that technical colleges just give, great bang for the dollar, but very little investment has been put into technical colleges in the form of general aid over the years, more so one-offs on specific programmatic needs, which are often a result of squeaky wheels, if you will, with certain sectors or business leaders really advocating loudly for those needs. So I would say that would be one really obvious and easy strategy to entail to partner more with some of those businesses and chambers on the needs of technical colleges in general, with dual enrollment being one of them. Most elected officials, they see dual enrollment as a complicated program. There are layers of different programs with different names, and there's never quite enough funding. And so I think funding is key, but also kind of recognizing where we can streamline and be supportive of that as well would be helpful.
Yeah, Supreme. Director Marmakunde.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're next.
So I wanted to comment briefly on the surplus vote and that took place. I'll stay away from the politically charged portions of it. There was a lot of unfortunate back and forth that went on in the media, but I will say this one part, that much of it centered around a rebate back to taxpayers in the state of Wisconsin. The numbers 300 for a single filer and 600 for married filers. I think it goes to bear that sometimes when you win a prize, the words "up to" are always there, and that actually qualifies what is actually meant. And the words "up to" were present, so there were many folks who are going to get nowhere near through your $600 and their rebates back. And it's very important to know that these were not stimulus checks where everyone gets a flat fee straight up. And then there were some Wisconsinites who were not going to get anything at all. Like if you're an elder who lives on Social Security, you were not going to get a rebate check at all. And up to 1.3 million people in Wisconsin were not going to get anything back. And there are coming expenses in the next couple of years that we would have to have considered how we have the money to pay those kinds of bills in the coming future. And so it failed, and I don't know that there will be anything done in the future, but as of right now, that's what we stand. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Director Fogel.
I'm just wondering if there is an advantage to having the whole dual enrollment discussion moved from its traditional place in the educational departments and educational committees to workforce development. Would we be more likely to get a comprehensive, supportive response from the people in charge of those committees?
So the bill as drafted partially did do that by tasking the Department of Workforce Development with the work of managing the council. The council, I think, as drafted, had either 14 or 16 members, different appointees from, higher education. So, UW system, technical college system, as well as Department of Public Instruction, et cetera. So the council consisted, I think, of the right types of stakeholders. I think in part, the bill was vetoed because it's territorial, right? Some people just feel like the Department of Workforce Development should not be tasked with the educational aspect of dual enrollment because they don't have that skill set or certain resources or expertise, etc. I certainly can't say if that's right or wrong, right? That's just sort of what folks had provided as some concerns. I think right now, we'll see where the political landscape goes in November, because in the current political environment with divided government being as it is, and some very icy relationships with the Department of Public Instruction, for example, with Republican leadership, legislature, having the Department of Workforce Development tasked with this is something that's more favored by the current legislative makeup. Now that could change come November. So I think that there could be some value there. I think at the end of the day, if we know that we really need funding, that's where the energy should go, regardless of where dual enrollment is housed. Because sometimes then if a more technical element advances, elected officials sometimes think that, well, I've solved the problem, right? I gave you that bill and now things are great, when in fact it's the funding aspect that we need, regardless of where the dual enrollment council or programs are housed. So that's how I would respond to that right now. In terms of, do we prioritize restructuring of the program and sort of who's managing the program, or is it just streamlining the program as is, to make it more user-friendly, if you will, within the current structure, and then really advocate for the funding, which is what everyone agrees is actually what's needed.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Yeah, so, it's kind of interesting and might be an interesting conversation for boards association to to talk among the members. I mean, the question of dual enrollment isn't like youth apprenticeship or internship. It's really about a relationship between high school classes and college classes. So there's a very strong educational sort of foundation to it, and understanding how that works is, sort of part of understanding dual enrollment. But they dual enrollment is not entirely, but a lot of it is in career and technical education programs. And so it has a whole workforce sort of side, sort of a very strong workforce focus to it. And the fact that we have siloed agencies may not have helped, the development of dual enrollment over the years. But I've had some actually super interesting conversations with Dr. Cruz about how dual enrollment happens in other states, where there is a much more favorable condition for the two-year colleges to be able to get FTEs out of dual enrollment, which brings revenue into us. So, I think a lot of the conversations about dual enrollment are between educational institutions. I mean, it's like the relationship between K-12 and us, and between K-12 and the UW system or private colleges or, whatever. I think, though, that it would be a super interesting thing for board members to have better understanding of. Coming out of K-12, I used to run career and tech ed in K-12, so I know a lot about this, but I don't think necessarily technical college board members do. And it's a really interesting area, and it's ripe with opportunity for us that I just don't think, as a technical college system, we have been engaged with enough at all. So I just gave you an assignment at the Boards Association, in case you didn't hear that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that part. I did hear you volunteering to come and speak to the association, so thank you for that. You said that the counting the students in the dual enrollment program helps with FTEs and therefore helps with funding, but I'm not sure how that actually works, because the schools, the K-12 schools, are saying we don't have any money to put into this, and we're saying, well, we can't afford to provide people without a funding source. And if the only place it is reflected is in the state formula for FTEs for general revenue sharing, then you're just making a bigger number when you divide up the pie. It's not providing additional revenue. Did I miss something there?
It should not be robbing Peter to pay Paul, which is I think what you're
Yeah.
suggesting. It should be both systems should be able to get credit for the students.
Correct.
Because the students are getting
Attending both.
accredited, they're getting transcripted credits. So I graduated from high school. My high school transcript says I took CNC machining.
Yeah, how does that help his K-12?
Because I was enrolled in the K-12 and I got funded by the system for being a K-12 student. What happens right now is, unless we teach it here, we don't get any credit for it. That student shows up here, they go into CNC 2, we don't get any credit for CNC 1. But number of other states do give credit on both levels.
And that's the majority. That's about 75% of all dual enrollment in this state is transcripted credit, which means, but the colleges, the technical colleges do not get any funding towards FTE based on those transcripted credits, where other states give that credit.
Okay, but the thing I'm trying to understand
No, it doesn't take it away from the high school.
What I'm trying to understand is, where is if you adopt the process like 75% of the states do, and apply that to our situation with our legislature and our funding sources, does it get us more money, or does it just does it get us more money only because we now have a number which says we have more full-time equivalent students for this limited pie that they create every year to divide up among the technical colleges? Or that's only 30%. I'm thinking about the 30% that's based on outcomes. So does the state provide money to us in an unlimited amount based on FTEs?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, Paul, do you think that that's?
Everybody says yes.
Who said this? Right? It's unlimited.
Right,
I mean,
so-
in theory, right? It's unlimited.
I'll defer to our finance people, but with how general aid would be calculated in that formula, as I understand, even though some of it's the outcome-based funding, right? The 70% does take into consideration your FTE student population. And so, again, I'll defer to the financial experts, but that should then be helpful if we have those higher FTE, and higher enrollment.
Under the
And
current
same in the K-12 space, because K-12 schools are funded with a 3-year average student population, if you will, so they are also receiving general aid based on that student count.
under
So
the
it'd be
current
separate
formula
funding formulas.
for the general aid that comes from the state, the formula disregards the transcripted credits.
Right.
For that part of the formula, for the outcomes-based funding piece, there is an amount that is made available to the technical colleges for dual credit, or dual enrollment rather, and we can increase our funding if we have a higher percentage of that overall statewide number. But the size of the pie stays the same. It's just a matter of how the technical colleges would be divided up. If the technical colleges choose that criteria, that of the 10 criteria for the outcome-based funding.
But that only increases that performance-based funding for slightly, because it's only one of 7 factors, right? Factors that we would choose. Where with the FTE form, the general funding, that would be a much larger increase for us, especially as a larger institution that has as many students that we have that are currently taking advantage of transcripted credit. It would be it's a game changer for us from a financial standpoint.
The question would be, if they allow that to count towards the general funding formula, are they going to make us whole instead of just dividing up the current formula?
Right.
The current dollars. So they would have the legislature would have to approve more dollars to the current dollar amount that is funded to the technical college system to be divided up amongst all 16 schools.
And that would be, yes, I mean, we need more general aid, because otherwise what it is just, but we likely MATC would benefit even if general aid stayed flat because we're the largest institution by population. So we would probably be a winner, I would assume, even if general aid stayed flat. I guess that's more of a question than a comment, but I think that's how that could work too. Not advocating that general aid would stay flat, but if they even changed the policy aspect of this to allow those students be counted even without an increase in aid, there's probably a good chance that we would be a winner in that distribution in the 70%, I would assume.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions?
Do other states have these committees that oversee this type of situation?
I think most states have gone past this. So maybe they had a committee at one point, but they're years away. They did this maybe a few decades ago.
Okay.
So maybe there were committees. I can't say they weren't committees, but those committees planned and executed these plans years and years ago.
It just seems like every college would have a different type of, issue or something with it. And it just, I don't know. Is it something does it need governance right now? At
I
our
don't think
level?
so.
Mhm.
You just need
It
to have,
needs a funding
you need a
formula.
formula. You need a formula.
Yeah.
It's just, that's basically it.
Because mostly it's like, okay, I take a class in high school, that class has a curriculum. It's the same curriculum then that's taught here. That's how you get the transcripted credit. So, and we know what our curriculum is and it's approved by the state. So there's a certain regulation to it that, because the technical college courses are all regulated by WTCS.
I would have took it 100 years ago.
There you go.
I heard you had.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Thank you, Rami.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 9, board monitoring. We have the review of the fiscal year 2026-2027 preliminary capital equipment budget. If I can have Mr. Paulsing come join us again. You should just get a seat.
Yeah. You're gonna start renting that seat.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I again had just a slide for this, but it's the same slide you already saw in the presentation. But agenda item 9A is the capital preliminary review of the capital equipment budget. What I'm showing on screen is also in the agenda item. And then also in the agenda item behind this chart, it shows all the underlying detail that covers all of the numbers that are included here. So we generally report in the budget book, and in most places you'll see this higher, I'll say 20,000 foot level view, but you can actually see individual items that are listed within each of these areas and what they are that pass through our screening process. It's a pretty extensive screening process. And so the total for the capital equipment budget, the current cap is $26 million. That is a separate issue from all of the $1.5 million issues that are done each month. And we will, with your approval, of course, fund that budget that is usually approved, and the funds are advanced to us in September. You see on screen the chart, which again is in the agenda item. I will note there was a little bit of an increase to the IT and support services side of the house in this year's budget. And you'll see it's about $2 million more than last year, and most of that is accounting for the implementation costs and first year subscription costs of whichever ERP vendor we select. You'll recall at a recent meeting, there was a video presentation to you about our ERP process. We are still undergoing that process and hope to be able to report back to you in the next couple of months our decision on that. So that did reallocate some funding within this chart, but that $26 million is the same amount that we've issued for the last couple of years. Happy to answer any questions should you have.
Go ahead.
On the IT, $7 million, $7.2 million. How much of that is a recurring charge? I mean, is it $2 million a year for the software, depending on which package we buy, and the rest is one-time well, there's never one time when you buy computer equipment, but is it, are we looking at, at a similar number next year, or what's really in that number?
The $2 million additional for the implementation years will include the additional professional services for implementation. And so remembering that we will be going through that implementation process and still paying for the subscription service for our current ERP. So that is reflected as additional costs. So we're paying for 2 systems, and then all of the professional services and support that go along with that process. Probably for a 2 to maybe 3 year period, there will be additional costs until we are able to sunset the current ERP, and then we'll be down to just 1 subscription service, which will be hopefully very similar to the ongoing cost at this time.
Is the ERP software provider that we are using now one of the finalists to provide us with a new system?
The current provider is in fact one of the finalists. However, they have 2 products, and what they have recommended to us to be the best of their 2 products is not the one we currently own, but they're separate products. And the current provider is Ellucian, and we use the Ellucian Colleague software package, or ERP, and they have recommended to us their Ellucian Banner ERP. Both are used by a lot of schools across the country. They came from Ellucian was formed out of a merger of 2 companies, one which owned the Colleague software and one which owned the Banner. They will eventually merge together and make one platform, we believe, but have not yet done that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Directors online? Okay. Thank you. So next we have item 9B, the apprenticeship program presentation by Dr. Bartley. If you want to come up, please.
Greetings, Madam Chair, members of the board, President Cruz, MATC colleagues, students, and convening members. Thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak this evening on my current status of apprenticeship and my growth plan at MATC. I am Dr. Donnie Bartley, fresh off of teaching 19 years in HVAC here at the college, and I'm now the Associate Dean of MCT and Apprenticeship. I recently shared my recorded presentation with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the directors in the room? Directors online?
And just, well,
Yeah.
and just, I sent a number of questions to you, which you answered, and I appreciate that, and that was shared with other board members.
Okay. Thank you. That was painless.
Donnie, thank you for your service, and thank you for moving into this new role. I think it's great to have a trades
Appreciate
go into the teaching end and then advance into the administration. I really
I'm happy to
commend you
report
on your
back.
progress.
I'm happy to report back. I really enjoy this position, so I
Nice.
see a long road ahead of me.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have item 9C, student satisfaction survey. And Eric Saymet. Thank you.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Cruz, and members of the administration, faculty, and students, and MATC Greater Community. I am pleased to be sharing with you the results of our 2026 Student Satisfaction Inventory Survey. I have a few slides, and we'll move on to the next one here. So a little bit about the SSI, or the Student Satisfaction Inventory. It is produced by Ruffalo Noel Levitz, or RNL. Over 2,700 colleges have participated in the SSI. It's comprised of 50 questions grouped into 8 areas. And just so you know, the scoring range is a 1 to 7. And so I heard a question on that already. So
Wasn't it weird?
So as we look through the slides and the results, you'll see we're right at the top, really, from a statistical significance standpoint. This year's SSI was administered February 15th through March 16th, so just over 1 day over a month, basically.
And through a variety of strategic canvassing methods and communications, we achieved 1,497 students responses, which is a little over 10%. And just to put that into perspective, online surveys are trending down across the nation at colleges, so a 10% is actually still pretty good, and above the statistical threshold for generalizability for this type of survey. So we can move to the next slide. So first, I want to just orientate you to a couple of the large scale results here. And these are, how has your college experience met your expectations? Rate your overall satisfaction with your experience here at the college thus far, and as well as all in all, if you had to do it over again, would you enroll at MATC or roll here again? And so these charts will show these are the actual questions the students respond to across the bottom. And then left to right, we have the 22 fiscal, or the 22 collection results in dark gray, 24 in blue, and the orange is our most recent year. And you'll notice this trend where every single orange bar is higher than any other bar, and that's because in all 50 questions throughout the SSI, MATC actually scored higher than any of the two previous collections. So, which is really great. It's the first time I've ever seen this happen. We didn't have any go down. We actually moved up. So, additionally, in the green, you'll see the national SAT or national satisfaction score. This is a 3-year average across all the SSI responses, which MATC meets or exceeds in most all of these benchmarkings against the national average. So again, here we see a 0.2 to 0.3 jump increase from the previous year. Overall, I think this is really good results. It shows these are some really good starter metrics to show like our students are satisfied and they would choose MATC again if they had the chance. So we'll go to the next slide. Our next slide, and this is a little small on the screen, so I apologize for that, but there's a lot of information. These are the eight areas of the SSI. And so again, as we look across these, we can really see that we are meeting or exceeding the national area average in most, as well as we have some pretty big jumps as well. So academic advising effectiveness, we see some really large jump there. This response, as well as our student centeredness score is really high. So I'm going to share a few highlights from some of these areas. If I went through all 50 questions in all areas, I think you would feel a little bit like I was a weather forecaster in a desert climate. So I'm not going to put you through that. It would just be all positivity for about 50 slides. So instead, we'll look at just a few of these, right? So the first one I want to highlight here is just a real consistent trend here, and that's with our safety and security group here. They continue to perform really high on their ability to respond quickly to calls. If you notice in the previous one, there was a little bit of a dip we're a little bit lower than national average. Now, again, I would want to point out the fact that this is a national average across lots of institutions, many that are rural, they're not urban, they're not may or may not be 2-year. So here we see, where it really counts, which is our public safety providing great service. They're doing that well. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide. Jumping into emissions and financial aid effectiveness, again, we have a big jump here of 0.32 in this item, which is the institution helps me identify resources to finance my education. And this is a quote from an actual student respondent here. They're obviously de-identified from us, so we don't know who it is, but the quote is, financial support, campus opportunities, and student services all work together to make MATC a place where students can truly succeed. So this is from one of our students. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. Jumping into our academic advising effectiveness, the item I would love to highlight here is that I receive ongoing feedback about my progress towards my academic goals. And again, we see a large jump here of 0.41. which is again a very large jump when we look at the SSI. So so great results with this one. We can go to the next slide where I have a quote, which is again directly from a student. My advisors were amazing, especially during times I struggled to find the right program. They never belittled me or made me feel like a failure for changing my major. Instead, they offered me encouragement and genuine support, always focused on helping me succeed, which is, again, a great review of our academic advising. Overall, again, we tried, we even canvassed students afterwards, and they're all positive results. So our next one is instructional effectiveness satisfaction. This is a big one. This one, when we looked at the 24 results, I was part of some conversations, and we noticed a slight dip here, which is in these two. So we thought we'd bring them back because not only did we get back up past our 22 results, we've exceeded by quite a bit. And so, and these two are usually a concern when a college dips because these are the things that MATC prides themselves on, which is the instructional quality I receive in most of my classes is excellent, and there are sufficient courses within my program of study available each term. Both of these, we saw a 0.29 and 0.2 jump. And this quote here says, the professors are professional, knowledgeable, and passionate about teaching. They explain topics clearly, encourage participation, and are always available to answer questions or provide extra help when needed. So not only do we have that qualitative response for students, we actually see this in the trend line as well. We can go ahead and go to the next. I saved the best for last here because this one's one of my favorites, the student centeredness, because this resonates through faculty, staff, and administration, and is really the reason why a lot of us are here. And the two here, our students are made to feel welcome here, which again, we saw a 0.24 jump. And then the really shocking one here was administrators are available to hear students' concerns. And I think this shows a dedicated improvement that administrators have been trying to be a little bit more open to students over the last couple of years, with a 0.45 increase, which is one of the highest items to increase overall. So again, a couple quotes here. From the moment I began my program, I felt welcomed and encouraged by both faculty and fellow students. And the second one here is very much happy with my experience at MATC. It has a really supportive community of administrators and advisors. So with that, I would love to answer any questions you might have.
Questions, anyone? No? Directors online, any questions?
No.
Aren't you happy it's a 7?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very.
If it was a 10, I'd be presenting something different to you. So
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Okay, next we have item 9D, academic program status updates, and you can have Dr. Barb Piano to come up. Thank you.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for
Afternoon.
having me. I'm here to provide an academic program update for you. This year, we've completed our program review cycle. If you remember last fall, we presented the new program review process. This process has made up the annual program showcase as well as the program vitality study. The outcomes of these processes help shape decisions for the college's portfolio of program offerings for growth, modification, suspension, and discontinuance. So today we've attached a handout to the agenda, and we have different categories that we'll explain. The proposed new program, and if you remember, we brought Fire Medic to you in the fall for approval, and I just wanted to share that that is moving forward. We've completed phase 2, and the program development continues. So we're excited about that program, and we'll continue the work over this year. We also then have proposed program suspensions, and so as you heard talk, that one of the strategies is looking at program viability for the budget. And as Director Pence mentioned, eliminating programs is something we've not done we've done in part, but have not been very aggressive about it. And so we've let some programs continue, and we're looking at those now in more detail through this process. So the programs that are on the list will not admit, the proposed ones will not admit students for the fall semester. That eliminates a new cohort coming in programs that really have had low enrollment and that don't sustain over time. And so that will be the best path forward for them. The decision to suspend a program is not taken lightly. As you know, we spend a long time to develop programs. It can take up to 3 years. There's lots of resources that are included in that, as well as staff and space and all those other functions that go into offering a program. And so you just don't lightly discontinue those. But we really need to look at things like program modifications, degree levels, and industry demands as criteria for when we do decide to suspend. So what you'll see there is the ones that we learned from this review process this last year. In many cases, these programs have been revived and remodeled 1 or 2 times to try to keep them alive. So we really try to, make sure we've done due diligence before we move down that road of suspension. And then we have a category called programs previously suspended. Those programs are within the 1 to 3 year period that WTCS allows. And they provide that opportunity because sometimes you might suspend a program and then all of a sudden the industry changes or something shifts, the credentialing requirement shifts or whatever. And this allows us to bring programs back without starting all over, which is a good thing when it's advantageous to do that. So these programs are either working through the student teach out plan to make sure that all the students are able to complete, and or were modified into exist in a different program format. And then the last category is proposed program discontinuance. These programs reflect programs that have been suspended for 1 to 3 years and may be discontinued if no students are enrolled at this time. That's a requirement of the state. We have to show 0 students in a program before they'll allow us to discontinue it. The programs that will be moving to discontinuance that fit that category will be brought to the board for approval in the coming months and then submitted to WTCS. So I'm happy to answer questions. Yes. Director Pence.
So overall for the machine tool, I have to ask, of
You
course.
do, yes.
The machine tool area is probably all of it needs revamping, correct? Would you say that that's
Yes.
the case?
Yes.
I've often thought that us having CNC Swiss machines was a little bit too specific, that we need to go down the path of more start with manual machines and then work into somewhat CNC. This was kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I believe that that program for sure is being sunsetted because they went through a DACM study this past year for that whole area. And so now they're looking at modifying all the programs that are in that area. We had 5 and we're going to 3. And that will include a certificate, a technical diploma, and then a 2-year technical diploma that will combine CNC and machine tool.
And tool and die.
And tool and die. Yeah, tool and die.
So you're combining that.
Mm-hmm. And that curriculum work has, they have a plan and they're working on what that curriculum build out will look like. Yeah.
I saw.
Tell them what a DACM is.
A DACM, sure. A DACM is a review process that is facilitated where you bring in industry-specific individuals and they provide feedback. And so it's not the faculty, it's other people from the community that really can inform what we should be doing and what the new program should look like.
I will bluntly say that I looked at the people that were in some of the advisory thing, and we really have to look at people that are employing people rather than people that are selling equipment.
Okay.
And I think that's how we backed ourselves in a corner here. This equipment right now, though, does have a premium. if we want to get rid of it. There are ways to get rid of it. Because I have experience with it.
Thank you for that. When I make that note, and we'll, as we continue down the road, we'll take that into account.
I think overall, we're going to see a bit of a resurgence in machining and tool and die. We really, as I'm restructured our business and I'm getting out and I'm sourcing work to other local shops, I'm starting to see more women in the trades. I am starting to see more younger people getting into it. I think, you know, some of the online curriculum, the Titans of CNC are getting more popular. I really think this is someday going to be something that you could have a business and actually staff again. So
Great. We're looking forward to making those changes and make that happen. So thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Madam Chair.
I have a question. As it relates to the discontinuations, it says programs must be in suspicion for a minimum of 1 year up to 3 years. So what period of time is used to determine the proposed program suspensions?
Those, we actually put a pause on the enrollment and the admission of students for the upcoming year to allow us to figure some of that out, right? So it depends on kind of what the circumstances are for the program. Is it really, are we looking at things that we're not meeting the industry need? Is it strictly enrollment and some of those kinds of things? So it could be the pause part for actually accepting a new cohort can be up to a year or longer, depending on what we feel the needs are. We also then need to create what we're calling the teach out plan for the students that are actually in the existing programs. We are ethically bound to make sure that we complete those students and that they get the education that they signed up for. Students have 3 years to do a completion. And we really try in the teach out plan, though, to make sure that we accelerate that as best as we can to make sure that the students move through in a way that's effective for them as well as provide the education.
Okay. So for the low enrollment piece, what's the period of the time that's determined for low enrollment? Is that an academic year? Is it over a course of years for you to place a program under the proposed program suspension?
Right. We monitor the enrollment over a number of years. And so it's not just 1 year because we know programs can go up and down and that, you know, depending on the market and whatever. And so we look at the trends over a period of probably 3 years, maybe go back as far as 5, depending, to really look at what that trend has looked like and have, you know, what the variations are to make sure that it's not a hasty decision. And when we look at really suspension, we're looking at the cohort coming in as 10 or less, which, you know, if you start a cohort at 10 or less, for a 2-year program, by the time you get to the second year, you're running programs and classes with, you know, 5 or less. So it's really not cost effective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Director Baker.
Go ahead.
So, you know, because we sat in these meetings together millions of years ago, we used to have an education committee that would review programs regularly. So, all of this makes perfect sense to me. You know, I do know that programs are evaluated on their enrollment, but also industry demand,
Student success.
Right, a number of other things. It would be really helpful, I know, at least for myself, and I think perhaps my colleagues, so that we understand more about our educational programs. You know, if we got a little more detail when we see something like this in the future, you know, like I'm seeing a bunch of things here that are like, wow, you know, a bilingual clerical and customer support clerk. Boy, that sure sounds like there should be a massive demand for that. But my guess is we're probably covering it in other programs in this particular program, but I don't. So I'm just.
We need more information.
I think it would just be helpful. You know, we just talked about apprenticeship, and there's several construction apprenticeships in here that we're sunsetting or proposing to.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, but there is probably good reason beyond, you know, the reason the enrollment's low or whatever. Anyway, so I think a little more detail for expanding would be at least for myself, very.
Okay, Director Foley.
I'd like to second that because I was looking at this list too and saying, okay, we've got culinary management. Isn't that Bartolotta's? I mean, that's one of our graduates, you know?
Well,
can there really
yeah.
be no demand for that? You've got 2 or 3 things here that relate to masonry or brickwork, and you know, I'm struggling to find a mason for my house.
Doesn't mean we don't have a
Well,
mason.
and let me explain, and
Yeah.
this is again where the information comes in. In some cases, like the bricklaying and masonry, that one was modified to just being bricklaying. So it still exists, but it exists in a different, under a different title at a different program level or whatever. So
That's what Director was just saying, but
Yep.
I said I started by saying I second this because I don't understand why these particular things, many of them, would not be something we would have high demand for. So it would really be useful
okay, happy to
to
do
know
that.
the reasoning that's behind it. You know,
Sure.
we're doing it elsewhere. It's a pretty good answer.
Director Pence.
One last question. Do you look at usage at campuses? Because there's, you know, I see a great labs in Oak Creek. There's a lot of, you know, machining houses and things on that maybe the Mequon campus could use more geographical, you know.
Right. So in the vitality process, we are doing a deeper dive on all those kinds of things. Where is the program located? How old's the equipment? How many times a year do we admit students? Which, you know, most of our programs, we admit both fall and spring. Can we sustain that? And so really that the vitality study process has given us a lot of opportunity to really look at things that maybe we didn't look at in such detail in the past. And so I think that we're, you know, as I said, we're on the end of our first year of that process. And so we're looking at refining it and obviously doing the plan, do, check, adjust to make sure that it hits all the buttons that we want and we're really asking the right questions. So we're excited to start year 2. We will also then be moving the timeline up, and so that we'll start earlier. And so that we'll actually be able to have the conversations with the programs and really figure out what they need as we go into the budget cycle, the capital equipment request cycle, and the staffing parts. And so we're moving it up so it's better aligned, I think will help us as well. And we're doing that with the annual program showcase as well. So.
Okay, well, if I may add, I agree with everything that's been said so far, in particular with the comment about making sure that we have the right individuals in those advisory groups.
Yep.
I know it's been a while since I've been involved in the culinary one, but it is mind-blowing to see that you guys are getting rid of the culinary management and food and beverage management, knowing the demand that there is out there. I'm not sure, like I said, maybe we know that this is combined with something, with another program, it will make more sense. But aside from like Bartolotta's, we have Silly, Sasses, which is huge, Levy, Sodexo. There's a lot of companies out there that are looking for these individuals, and this is bothersome.
How do you get more enrollment into that? The enrollment pieces.
Well, we have a huge pool of kids that are very interested in the industry from ProStar, and not only locally, but nationwide. So we need to tap into those students and make sure that we continue to grow and build and foster the interest that they have. So more partnership with MPS, high schools, the Restaurant Association, which you know, they're the huge sponsors behind ProStar. Yeah, American Culinary Federation. So yeah, there's a lot. Thank you. Any additional questions?
Just something, again, I like giving assignments to people tonight. So I'm tossing this back to our leadership team on the board, but we do deep dives in our finance. You know, we do deep dives in our HR. This is an opportunity for us to do a little more of a deep dive in our education and programming, which that's our business, you know, it's kind of what we do. So it would be good for us to figure out a way for the board to be more informed and, you know, more than just like we get sometimes a program comes and we get kind of a showcase. So, oh, it looks cool. But also this sort of thing that gets us a little deeper into what's actually happening with our programs.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, is there any new business?
Could we get in public comments, we heard this thing about a different way that we're doing part-time people. And could we just as a board get some clarity on that? What's the new process or not new process or, and whatever.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving on to item 11 for future events and announcements. June 16 of 2026, the MATC public hearing on the budget will be at 4 p.m. Right here in this room, downtown campus. And then on June 23rd, we'll have our MATC district board meeting at 4 p.m. in the same very room. And you have a motion?
Oh, I do. I move that the district board convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes to discuss item 12A, President's Annual Evaluation Summary Discussion. Sounds interesting. The board may reconvene its open session to take action on matters discussed in closed section under item 12A if necessary. And then it says stop.
Yeah, just stop right
Okay.
there. So can I get a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Dr. G.
Or if I have to make a friendly amendment. Right, second.
Sounds good. You guys want to take a little break? Oh, I'm so sorry. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Moore-McCundy,
Aye.
Director G,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Yep. Aye.
and Director Bajor. Aye. Director Cotton. Director Foley.
Aye.
And Director Case.
Aye.
Okay. That's good. So take a little break for 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll be back by 6:30